But so you mentioned earlier that your pivot or your main focus to start with is NFTs, gaming, and metaverse. So what does that mean on the kind of like feature set that the SAGA chain is optimized for? Does it mean it's optimized more for scalability, or what are some of the core features that are specifically interesting for gaming projects?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I'll address 3 different points there. So the first one is in terms of the technological requirements of these games. So a lot of the Web3 gamers or game devs are coming from the Web2 community. So there's a vast community of gamers and developers and studios in Web2, and they're sort of used to the user experiences in Web 2, which means that games can go incredibly quickly. There's high volume. All of that can be accommodated in the infrastructure. Now, there's a world of possibilities that Web 3 opens that they're still really getting their hands around. But to start with, I think in the migration from Web 2 to Web 3 or the expansion, they expect those user requirements to stay in place. So in other words, this game still has to be incredibly fast. It has to be able to accommodate high volume. It has to be always on. So SLA needs to be close to 100%. So a lot of that is what we're focusing on for the SAGA chainlets, making sure that performance is high, throughput is high, and that the developers are ultimately able to rely on the fact that the chainlets are going to be up all the time. If anything were to happen within the SAGA ecosystem such that certain chainlets go down, nevertheless, the other chainlets should be unaffected by that. So we're very much focused on performance. The second piece I'll mention is the token piece. So I don't think that a lot of game players out there are really accustomed to paying for infrastructure fees. They know that there's infrastructure in the background, but in terms of getting, a direct bill from AWS, for instance, that doesn't happen really in Web 2. So we think that that same experience should flow to games that are built on SAGA. So the way that we have structured our token, it's 2-layered. On the front end, we allow for applications to charge whatever gas fees they like and denominate it in any IBC-enabled token, which covers most tokens out there. Most of the time, the developers are going to choose the native token of whatever virtual machine they used for that particular application. So if it's an EVM, for instance, then the fees will be paid in ETH or in ETHMOS tokens. If it is a Solana virtual machine, then the fees are going to be paid in Sol, et cetera. Or the developers could choose to not charge anything and they'll find revenue in another way. But that allows for these games to continue to have the user experience on the cost side that their players are actually accustomed to. So how does SAGA, the SAGA economy, work with that being on the front end? So on the back end, the developers or our partners, they're the ones who are going to pay the fees for the maintenance of these chainlets. And those fees are paid in SAGA tokens. But that's the only time that the SAGA token really shows up, is to pay for that infrastructure. So we're trying to preserve and improve the user experience in gaming as much as possible using our architecture. Last thing I'll mention is for most games out there that are building on Ethereum, Solana, Polygon, Avalanche, et cetera, the NFTs, which are pretty critical to gaming, the in-game assets usually become NFTs. The NFTs are confined to that particular ecosystem. And so every game aspires to be able to have a much wider ecosystem in which to play with those in-game assets. So that's where interoperability becomes a big deal. That's where something like interchain accounts become a big deal. And to have that built in as a feature in Cosmos is incredibly powerful. So for the games that we work with, and certainly the studios and the gaming platforms, telling them, hey, the NFTs that are generated by each of your games, you can actually use those NFTs within your greater universe as opposed to just for an individual game. And that's pretty powerful for Web3 gaming in general.
Is the amount of chainlets, is there a cap to it, or is that basically unlimited?
It's unlimited.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.